Okay, folks, let's talk about foods for energy or eating for energy. This is an important part. So mute your phones, and afterwards you can unmute if you have any questions. Okay, so we're going to talk about mitochondria and energy. So mitochondria, you're probably saying, what is that? Well, every cell in the body has mitochondria except for red blood cells. And the mitochondria are the body's energy factories and batteries, kind of like the powerhouse of every cell. And there are many foods that disrupt the function of the mitochondria. But normally, we want to look at the foods that are going to support mitochondria because they make our energy. So they make energy, and then they allocate that energy to each cell. So we need good nutrition. Sometimes we need supplements. Sometimes we need vitamins, but we need a lot of good hydration. We need the building blocks, and we certainly need rest. So sleep plays a huge role with all of this. So what do you think would be what do you think would impact the mitochondria very negatively? Yep, you guessed it, it's sugar. And we'll talk more about that on Monday. Sugar really impacts the mitochondria in a really bad way. So does insulin. So anyway, more of that on Monday. So one of the first foods that we look at that supports energy and is very good for our energy and our mitochondria is going to be coconut. It's one of the very best high energy foods, and you can use it day and night without it impacting too much. So coconut is loaded with these medium chain triglycerides, and they break down for energy very easily. You know, unlike most fats, most fats depend on the bile to break down their fats. Instead, with coconut, it goes straight to the liver and is metabolized immediately for energy. It's one of the reasons why coconut and all coconut derivatives, including the medium-chain triglycerides, the MCTs, are used for ketogenic diets. So coconut is very helpful with digestion. It strengthens the immune system. It prevents and mitigates yeast like candida, helps to get rid of that. It's antimicrobial. It's got lots of molecules in that reduce and can fight off microbes. It's good for your skin. It helps maintain blood sugar and insulin. It's a fat. Remember, that helps with blood sugar and insulin. The other part, too, it's very effective in healing damaged tissue and infections. So a lot of times if I've been out in the sun and I've forgotten to put the block out on, and I get back home and my skin is very red and burnt and painful and sunburnt, well, I will slap on that coconut oil, and it makes such a huge difference. It takes the sting out, repairs the tissue, and it doesn't look like I'm very sunburnt the next day. So that's one of the places that you can use it. The next thing is protein. We need protein for energy. And a lot of times when I see my patients that are very fatigued, we switch up that breakfast immediately and start the day with some kind of protein. Now, bone broth is a really good protein because it has so many different nutrients, including collagen and gelatin and hyaluronic acid and chondroitin, all of those things that are very important for the skeleton. So whether you eat the bone broth as a broth itself or whether you have collagen, that would be another way of getting some protein in. But then the other edible proteins are going to be any of the meat proteins, so it could be beef or pork or lamb, chicken being poultry, and eggs. It could be something like fish or shellfish. And for people that are adverse to animal protein, of course, there's pea protein, which probably would be the better one if you were going to choose a vegan or vegetarian protein powder. It's also pretty good when it comes to something like, it also is very good when it comes to something like helping with controlling blood sugar as well. So protein is important. And we really need protein. Again, it helps to feel us full and satisfied. And it's also very good for... Can everybody hear me? So this would be the... Okay, good. You can unmute and just say yeah. Okay, good. Because I've had some people say that they are having a problem with the sound. Is it okay? Okay, good. Mute.
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Okay, great. Thanks. So the next thing, the protein, so besides protein, the next thing that's really good for energy in the body are going to be berries. So berries are loaded with antioxidants, and they're pretty low in sugar too, so that's an important part as well. But they have these phytonutrients, and if you've heard me talk before, you've heard me talk about phytonutrients or phytochemicals, and we need them for many, many different functions in the body. But they are very important as an anti-inflammatory. And they also help our bodies to address or adapt to stress very effectively and efficiently. The berries are also very good for heart disease, and they actually help with breaking down belly fat. So it helps with the weight loss aspect too. But certainly around the belly, because, you know, when we store that visceral fat, it's also very pro-inflammatory. So this is one of the aspects that the berries do in helping reduce that inflammation. Berries are good for bone health. Who knew? Again, the phytonutrients are important for that. Certainly for digestion. Every which way. They're very good for the microbiome. So we're thinking about the gut bacteria. Berries are enormously good for them. They also help with healing the mucosa if there's any kind of damage to that. They help with digestion because there's great enzymes in there. So it helps with those. It's got those anthocyanins. It's very good for healing the gut as well. We know that berries are great for the brain. Yes, the brain. And they're very good for apoptosis. So apoptosis means inducing cancer cell death. They're extremely good for lowering blood sugar. And let's face it, they are absolutely delicious. Of course, all the berries play a role, but the purple and the black have the most of these pigments or these anthocyanins or these phytochemicals that are so important for the body. But the great thing about berries, even if you buy them frozen, because there's not a lot of them in the market just yet, I love to have them with a little bit of coconut cream on top of them. So get them out the freezer while they're still frozen, and maybe a tablespoon of coconut cream, opening up a can and taking a spoonful or two of the coconut cream on the berries, and it is absolutely delicious. And you could have that for breakfast or even a dessert. So another thing that's really good for energy is spinach. Who knew? It's a superfood, and it's loaded with blood-purifying chlorophyll and lots of antioxidants too. So it's got lutein and zeaxanthin, again, those phytochemicals and nutrients, and we know that lutein and zeaxanthin is really good for the eyes. Spinach also contains a plant-based steroid called phytosteroids, and these boost the body's ability to deal with stress. They've also been shown to dramatically increase glucose metabolism. So it keeps the blood sugar level, and it minimizes the impact of insulin, because, you know, insulin is the fat storage hormone, but it's also pro-inflammatory, so it minimizes that. So spinach, having a lovely spinach salad midday would be a great idea, and then packing it full of some protein and some vegetables and not forgetting the olive oil would be great. The next fat that we look at is going to be grass-fed butter. Now, butter is digested very differently than coconut oil, because it gets broken down by bile and it has a different, it's in a different format. But there are things in butter that are important. So one of those is conjugated linoleic acid, CLA. And CLA really does help with reducing belly fat. It also protects against cancer, and it supports muscle growth. The next thing is butyrate. Butyrate is a short-chain fatty acid, and it reduces inflammation. Now, I often talk about butyrate when it comes to the microbiome, because the gut bacteria and butyrate go hand in hand. Butyrate is required for every part of the body. Please, will you mute your phone? Thank you. The other thing that butter has is retinol A. So retinol A is vitamin A, and it's really good for supporting the thyroid, our adrenals, stress, adrenals, energy, and it's good for the immune system too. So there are a lot of people that can't convert normal beta-carotene into retinol A or vitamin A. It's a genetic thing. So having some retinol A is not a bad idea. It gets a bad rap from lots of people. They say too much of it can impact the liver because it's a fat storage hormone, so it's a fat-based hormone, vitamin rather, and we store it in the fat. But we need it. And there are, as I said, a lot of us don't function that well with just the beta-carotene. It has vitamin D in it, and vitamin D is needed for almost every function in all the cells. So we do need to have that. And then it's got K2 as well. So K2 is required for the heart, bone health, and many other functions in the body. And believe it or not, butter has omega-3 fats in it. We always think of omega-3 fats being in fish only, but we do know that actually some grass-fed cattle or grass-fed red meat animals also have a high amount of omega-3s too. So the next food we're looking at, and of course grass-fed butter, and butter helps with energy. Fats are very good for helping with energy. So the next thing we look at, red onions. So this is a very high energy food. And again, it's loaded with antioxidants and these flavonoids. But the one that it has in there is quercetin. It's a sulfur-containing amino acid, and it boosts cysteine and glutathione. Glutathione is one of those molecules that actually helps with detoxification and clearing junk out of the body. But it's got a really good source of chromium in it. And chromium is one of those minerals that actually helps to regulate our blood sugar levels. We make chromium, but sometimes we become very deficient in that. So it's a great idea to have those red onions in them. And plus, they taste really delicious, don't you think? So we know that the red onions helps with detoxification. It lowers triglycerides, it reduces blood pressure, it fights against infection, so it's good for the heart. So having some sliced onions with that spinach salad, maybe some berries in the salad and more olive oil, sounds pretty yummy, right? The next thing we're talking about are avocados. They are so loaded with great fats and a lot of the carotenoids, so those beta-carotenes, very good for us. They also, again, have lutein and zeaxanthin. And they're very easy on the digestive system. What's also interesting about this is that fat in those avocados are very, very good for helping with hormone function, so hormone balancing. So you want to think about using avocados at least once or twice a day, and maybe we're building up on that spinach salad. Now it's got some berries in it, it's got some olive oil, it's got some red onions, and some of those avocados would be great, don't you think? So we know avocados are good for the heart, the brain, immune system, digestion, energy, muscles, skin, hair, all of that kind of stuff. But it's also really good for satiety. We feel very satisfied when we've actually had avocados. It's got that great fat in it. The next thing is chocolate. So you'll be happy to hear chocolate is on the list for energy. It's also rich in good fats. That's if you're having the higher cacao one. So you want to have chocolate that's definitely over 70%, because the higher you go up with the cacao level, the less sugar and milk is going to be in that. So chocolate has really good fats in it, but it also has those polyphenols, those phytochemicals in it. And one of the ones that it contains is theobromine, and it's really good for improving circulation through the body. And it's a bit of a stimulant, so you also find theobromine in coffee. So cocoa beans, coffee beans, that kind of thing. So for some people, when they eat chocolate, they may get some palpitations or they feel a little bit buzzy with it. It's going to be from the threobromine. But it's so delicious. I think it is the food of the gods, right? Remember when I did the talk on chocolate? I think I'm going to have to do that one again. So, but it's good for the heart, it's good for the brain, and then it's got that yum factor. Everyone loves chocolate, methinks. The other thing would be mushrooms. So reishi is one of those mushrooms that's really good for helping balance many aspects of the body. It's very good for supporting adrenals. So adrenals, we also make our stress hormones through those. So you can get reishi mushrooms, you can get them in a supplement, you can buy them sometimes fresh, but you know, there's a lot of those teas now. They make sort of powdered mushrooms and you add them to coffees and teas. This might be something you want to find. I think I've seen reishi at the checkout at Whole Foods. You know, they've got them in, as I say, those little sachets or those little packets. You tear them open and you add some hot water to it. And some people are adding them to cold brew coffee, things like that. Try it out and see. The next part, too, would be B vitamins. Bs are also very important in the energy process of the body. They also help with carbohydrate, fat, and protein metabolism. So we do need them. B12, B6, B5 also. All of those are very good for energy. My suggestion, if you're buying supplements, and maybe that'll be a talk for another time, is don't buy them from CVS or any of the pharmacies, because the quality is poor and you're not going to get much value out of that. So if we're thinking about these foods, these are what we want to include in our daily diet. And the time when people get fatigued is a lot of the time it's going to be in the afternoon. So make sure that there's less of the carbohydrate stuff in the afternoon, because you know with carbohydrates, take a cookie, for example. If you eat a big cookie, it's going to raise your blood sugar, and when your blood sugar is raised, insulin is secreted. Insulin is the fat storage hormone. It picks up that glucose, packs it away, and then your blood sugar crashes. Then you need more cookie or something sweet to raise your blood sugar back again, and then the same thing happens. So when you have these peaks and troughs of blood sugar, it really does a thing on your energy levels. And that insulin also impacts the mitochondria. So reishi mushrooms are definitely a way to go with that.